One, and we are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintroud. How are you doing today this week, Seth?
I'm good. Today, actually, I had Snowbot, this remote controlled kind of AI driven snow blower out, and they're sponsoring the show this week. So thank you to Snowbot. We'll have a review later this month, probably.
Yeah, timing is great because snow. There's plenty of that around. Well, not here because I'm in Mexico right now, but around North America right now with the extreme cold wave that's hitting the Northeast. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about that today also because one of the biggest story this week, if not the biggest, regarding Tesla is the problem in the extreme cold that a lot of Tesla owners are experiencing right now, specifically Tesla owners with the latest heat pump. So that's the 2021 Model 3s and all Model Y vehicles. It's actually a problem that we heard about last year around the same time when there was a big wave of cold. Uh, it was frame as a software issue with the sensors that the heat pump was shutting down, and we already know in the first place that the heat pump is not, it's a super efficient system, super good at creating some clean heat, but it's also not ideal for extreme cold weather. Like you generally need a backup system, but Tesla's octovalve system combined with the heat pump had a dual loop system that Tesla claimed was fixing this issue. Like it could handle extreme cold. Um, that wasn't the case last year, but Tesla was framing it as a software issue. A sensor is tripping and telling the wrong temperature to the system and shutting down the heat pump, which is a problem when you're driving around in extreme cold. The car gets extremely cold, and then um, it's literally a danger issue. But now it's resurfacing again this year with this wave of cold weather, and we're starting to learn a little bit more about the problem through some of the people that are unfortunately experiencing it. And there's a some people are literally driving around and then they get this little warning here: cabin climate control system requires service, cabin heating cooling limited or unavailable. And it's mostly unavailable. People say that it's still blowing air, but it's cold air. Like it's not warm at all. And a bunch of owners brought their system to their cars to the local service centers, especially in Canada and in the Northeast. And they've been told a bunch of different things, but for the most part, what seems to be consistent is, um, well, actually, it looks like it's a bunch of different problems put together. The main one being the air intake in front of the car, which the heat pump use, can get clogged up with ice, and that either breaks the flap or leave the flap stuck, and that will in turn trigger a mistake in the sensor or completely block the air input, and then you screwed either way. So now the bigger issue is like how do you fix that? Is it an hardware problem? Do you need to replace the hair intake or the flap or the sensor or all of those? Tesla right now, what they're telling people is like either manually remove the highs from the hair intake or use your cabin control ahead of time to try to thaw the air intake with boosting the defroster to the maximum. That's not ideal, of course, depending on, like, if you have a problem with your air intake being covered in ice, that probably means your car is outside. So if your car is outside, is it plugged in? If it's plugged in, it's not too bad. But even then, if you put your defroster at max, even if your car is plugged in, depending on what it's plugged in, you might lose some range. And especially if you're 120 volt, then it's not going to charge at all anymore, and you're going to lose like
Right.
probably uh, 20 kilometers and over 30 minutes of defrosting. And at this type of cold that we're experiencing right now with minus 20 Celsius, which, what is it in Fahrenheit? We just talked about it, but I forgot.
Like -10.
Negative 10. It doesn't do much. So they're telling you to do that. Then Tesla pushed a software update this week that some people are saying that affects the attempts to fix the issues, but it's not clear what it does yet. We don't have any release notes on it, so Tesla didn't release any details. I would assume that they can do something. They can make it into a mode that would push more hair towards the front of the car and try to defrost the area. But honestly, it doesn't look like it's the only problem. It looks like it might be more of a hardware issue with the air intake and the flap itself, or even with the octovalve system completely. Now, what's not clear is that is it a problem, a native defect with the heat pump octovalve system, or is it that if the problem persists with the air intake and the false trigger on the sensor for the heat pump, does it lead to a more severe hardware problem? Because we've saw several owners reporting that the service center had to replace several parts, if not all parts. In one case, in the case of Jimmy Young, a Model Y owner in Toronto, he posted on the Facebook page the entire service bill that added up to 5,000 Canadian, which is about 4,000 US dollars, to replace the entire super manifold that they call it, the octovalve system, and the heat pump. Of course, it was covered under warranty, but just to tell you, like, this is kind of an extensive repair here. It's not just like a software fix or replacing a flap. So this is quite a widespread problem. Like, if you go to the forums right now, if you go to the social media, you're going to see a lot of people complaining about that, and for good reason, because Tesla in cold weather has been a subject of discussion since the beginning. There's always the phrase that comes back that Tesla is a California car. Well, technically, like, not a Texas company, but whatever. It's still, if you're buying a North American Tesla, a Tesla in North America, you're buying it from Fremont, California. They say, oh, it's been tested only in California, which is not exactly true. They have a testing facility in Alaska, and they do some cold weather testing. But there has been over time a lot of issues in cold weather with some of the designs. One of the most common one that comes back is the door handles,
Yeah.
and I still have a problem with that in my Model 3 when it's left outside and it's too cold. Like, it takes me a long time, and I break my thumbs trying to push on the handles.
Yeah, we just have to smash them until they open, and then they don't shut. So like the door's just like,
Yeah, they stick open like that. Yeah, it's not it's not ideal at all. But this one is a more like, it's potentially dangerous, because if you imagine you're
yeah,
long distance road trip, you're in a kind of remote area, and then you get this problem. Uh, if you have, even if you still have, like, the car is still working, you still have range, but you still have an hour to go or something. Going an hour and minus 20, minus 30. Now we are seeing minus 30 Celsius weather. It's an issue. Of course, you can have maybe your if you have the seat warmers, the heated seat, that helps a little bit,
yeah,
but I mean, your hands are gonna get cold pretty fast. So at this point, if you have Model 3 or Model Y with the heat pump, I kind of have to recommend that you at least have like a candle in the car
couple
at all
candles.
time. Yeah, a couple of candles maybe, and also have your winter gear with you. Like, sometimes I know that I like to I dress pretty light for the weather, because I know, like, I'm just going to my car, and then my car to whatever I'm going, and it's inside, so I just put a little jacket on. But this time maybe I would put my full winter coat and my big gloves and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you want to
Elon,
do that anyway, even regardless of the situation. I
yeah,
mean, I should note, like, I go to Vermont every weekend. It's about a 3 hour drive, and it's going to be quite cold this weekend. And we're a little bit concerned that we're going to lose heat on the way up there. And there's some barren stretches. Obviously, we'll get a candle, we'll get some blankets. We've got a husky, uh, so I think we'll be all right. But it is a little bit scary. Maybe Tesla should sell some candles in the
yeah.
Tesla store for
Sell
Doge.
them the Dogecoin, and
Yeah,
for an extremely exorbitant price too. But
right.
yeah, I mean, there's been reports out of, like, Finland and Sweden that try to put a number of people affected. So, but that's what's confusing. Like, no one is able to say, is it a defect with the system inherently, a hardware defect that's not affecting all cars, or is just a bunch of conditions that can lead to the any of those, literally any Model 3, Model Y with the e-pump failing. That's the concern right now, because we've seen in Finland, they say, oh, either a third to a fourth to a third of the cars are being affected by that. Again, I don't know if they mean that there's a defect in the third or fourth of the cars that it comes with a defect and then the system fails, or if the conditions that lead to this failure are affecting a fourth to a third of the owners. It's not clear. Elon acknowledged the issue in a thread on Twitter, but he didn't go into details. The thread was framing the info in like it's can be just solved in the software, but at the same time, yeah, there's a problem with the flap for the air intake. So are they going to have to replace the flap, or they can just fix the issue with software? The whole issue is not clear. And like I said, we have seen owners having to replace their entire system. So be be aware of that. And like I said with the what's coming up this next week with minus 30s and whatnot, like you be super careful in the coming days because it's an issue. And I mean, in the article, I had to put in that Elon Elon said, if we remember, that the heat pump system and the octovalve that Tesla developed is some of the best engineering he has seen in a while. It looks like this engineering needs a little bit more work.
Well, when it's working, it'll be awesome, but
Yeah.
it doesn't work. So, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, this article, like I got so much hate from the Tesla fan for it, even though everyone agrees this is an issue. But I had a bunch of Tesla fans which cracked me up, where they're like, "How about you report on the cars that are working? The heat pump is working. Like no one gets a gold star for the system to work as intended. Like you're eating when you buy a new $40,000 car, you expect the eating system to work. It's not like, hey, by the way, my system eating work.
Can,
Isn't that awesome? Where are the headlines about that?"
I tweeted something to this effect, but like, who would like if we wrote a post that said most of Tesla's heaters are working, like
Yeah.
that nobody like that's not a good post either.
Yeah, but then if 10%, 20% of the system are failing in the extreme cold, that's a real story. Like that needs to be addressed. Doesn't
And
mean that Tesla is going bankrupt. Doesn't mean that the company is over, is not doing great things to accelerate EV adoption. It's a real issue that Tesla needs to adapt, and we know that there's some part of Tesla's culture to move extremely fast and to bring iteration to the market and production extremely quick. That might lead to some of those concerns. Again, I think there's another extreme too that goes the Tesla short, that are like, oh, this is because, like we said earlier, this is a California car and they don't even winter test and everything. That's another extreme that's not true too. I'm sure the system was tested in Alaska, Tesla's cold weather proving grounds, but obviously they didn't account for all conditions. All right, moving on to the next Tesla story of the week. The new Model S that we've been reporting about over the last few weeks, that's been spotted spotted in California, with the new tail lights, the new headlights, the new CCS. Well, we didn't know at the time exactly that we suspected it was a CS charger, but the charge port was different. It was unveiled in Taiwan this week with the Model X. So far, Model S and X has only been delivered in the new refresh version. I mean, in North America, in the US and Canada. But Tesla unveiled, kind of did a local launch in Taiwan, but it wasn't for the Model X. It was pretty much exactly the version in the US, except with the SCCS charge port, which was expected. Like the European version and some other Asian markets are going to have the CCS version, but the Model S had the charge port with the CCS plug, plus the new tail lights and the new headlights. So we get a better look here at the headlights, and unfortunately, not a great look at the tail lights here. But it's the updated version. Also, the back with the tail lights, you see that there's not the trim that goes between the tail lights anymore. So it's the updated back. It looks a lot like the Model 3, to be honest, or
a
the
little bit more.
back end.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this change. Um, but yeah, it's suspected that those new headlights are the same matrix projector headlights that are in Model 3, Model Y now. So they're making their way to the Model S and the Model X. Model S for now.
You know, I think those Matrix headlights are gonna. I mean, I obviously in the Christmas show stuff, they're making an appearance, but I have a feeling Tesla's going to do a lot more uh, stuff with those Matrix headlights in the future with software.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising at all. They used to be not. I don't know, illegal is the word, but they weren't approved by regulators in North America, but that has changed, and Tesla brought them to the Model 3, Model Y. We assume that they're going to make their way to the Model S made for the US market too, but we're probably going to have to wait a few more weeks to confirm that. We know that Tesla makes vehicles in batches, and we know that the Model S deliveries are expected to start soon in the international markets. So probably Tesla is making a batch right now for that, and then once they resume the batch for the for US and Canadian market, we're gonna see if the changes have made it there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
What do you think of the hinge on the the bay door, the charger bay door? They moved that down to the.
Oh yeah, instead of being directly underneath, it's like on the side, on the left side.
I wonder how that's going to do in the snow.
Probably better actually, because
Yeah,
you have an angle instead of being straight up. Like it doesn't have to push off of snow or ice that much. It's probably better because yeah, but it doesn't protect the charge port as much though. Like
right,
right now, it serves as a little canopy on the Model 3 and Model Y to
right.
protect the charge port. I mean, those charge ports are already all what's the word, weatherproof, I
Yeah.
guess. So it's not that big of an issue. I don't think it was providing that much protection, but something to take into account. Also, like with the not that the original Model S and X had an extremely strong charge port. It was a smaller one too, but I was always a little bit concerned with the Model 3 one. That, like it's gonna break. Like it'll look a little bit flimsy.
My Model 3 charge port is wonky. Like it
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
open all the way. You kind of have to manually open it. And
Mm,
when they came out to repair my door handle, they were like, "You should bring that into the shop." So
okay. Yeah. So I was gonna say mine has been pretty good so far. So I thought that my concern was not warranted, but it looks like it might be actually. My car probably gets less used than yours too over time. All right, moving on. This is an interesting story that could change a little bit, or the information that we get about the full self driving beta. The DMV disclosed to Tesla and well publicly through a letter to a state senator in California that the California DMV, I should say, by the way. Um, so California DMV has an autonomous driving division that regulates autonomous driving test programs in the state, because I mean they have a lot of test program there. Companies like Tesla mostly have done their testing there. Apple, Google. Originally, they moved to Arizona and Nevada, but for the most part, it started in California. And this program, they monitor those test programs, and they also requires them to share some data, specifically accidents. So if there's an accident, they have to report it, have to do an accident report, and we get all the details about that. And also the popular disengagement report that tells you how many disengagement from the autonomous system it does per mile over time. So that's a good indicator of how good your system is, if it can handle most situation, and the fewer disengagement you have over the longest period of time on the longer mileage tells you that this system is better than another. It of course people can like choose the roads that they test them on, everything. They can choose a easier situation, like if you're testing it in downtown Los Angeles, or if you're testing it in rural California, you get completely different result. But for the most part, it's one of the few data points that we can have that gives us an idea of how the system are progressing too, of course, because over time, if you see all the biggest engagements are going down, well, that's a good indicator that this particular autonomous testing program is making progress. So Tesla has completely avoided this whole system by the California DMV. They did report some autonomous testing mileage over the years. Every few years, you would have them have a few hundred miles of autonomous testing, but we always figured out that it was only to produce some videos like the one you see in that screenshot. Those demonstration video that Tesla would release at a shareholder meeting or during an event. They would release one of those videos, and then later on, when the California DMV released their disengagement report, Tesla would have reported a few hundred miles, and the few hundred miles was normally just to produce that video, a little bit of test beforehand, and then release that video. And it was never a software that was released to the customer. Uh, and that's despite Tesla for the last year and some having this full self-driving beta program that's now thousands of vehicles have in their car right now. So the idea behind Tesla not having to report any of that mileage from the customers and from a lot of the people that have the FSD beta, also employees, and they do give Tesla regular feedback, regular report about their testing, not to the DMV though, because Tesla argued to them, and we thanks to plain sight that they release all the communication between Tesla and the DMV about that. It showed that Tesla has argued to the DMV that our system, the FSD Beta, is a level 2 driving system because the driver is always responsible. They always have to have their hands on the steering wheel, always have to pay attention at all times. So it's not under your definition of autonomous driving. It's not autonomous driving, so we don't have to report them. And at the time, the DMV said, "Okay, all right, we'll let you do that, and you don't have to report anything." But now, with the way that the system improve over time, with the way it's being used by customer based on the videos that those customers are releasing of the FSD beta, and the probably the number one reason is a little bit the pressure from the legislature. In this case, what was the woman's name? It's a Democrat from.
Missy. Oh no.
No, no, no. That's the woman for the NHTSA.
Yeah.
State Senator Lina Gonzalez. She sent a letter in December to the DMV asking the DMV their take on the FSD beta and why Tesla doesn't have to report to them. And last week, the LA Times uncovered a letter that the DMV sent her back. They say that they are actually right now reviewing their decision not to include Tesla in the reporting based on, I'm quoting in the DMV right now, recent software updates, videos showing dangerous use of that technology, open investigation by NHTSA, and the opinions of other experts in the space. So they're saying that they are reviewing the decision and they might force Tesla to report, probably through changing their definition of what accounts to an autonomous driving uh, test program, which I mean, it literally is. Like FSD Beta is literally an autonomous driving test program. It is true that it's level 2 though. Tesla has an argument there. It's a level 2 system, but it's a level 2 system push to the limits and then more. Like, and the DMV has their point, because if you look at the way that people are using it, they're using it as if it's autonomous. And then, yes, they are paying attention, having their hands on the wheel, but sometimes they're not paying that much attention. And sometimes their hands are not for the wheel for long enough. And you get some dangerous situations, like mentioned by the DMV here. We've seen, luckily, we have never seen an accident on videos. There's been reports of accident that never been confirmed, but what we've seen, and what we've seen plenty of proof of, is there's been a ton of near miss situation that could have been extremely dangerous, and that the system was definitely at fault, and the owners were quick enough to remedy the situation and avoid an accident. But so now the question is, like, there's a big divide within the Tesla community. Should Tesla just bend the knee to the DMV and start reporting? Should they fight this? What's happened? I don't know your opinions yet, but mine at this point, I'm like, I'm not the biggest fan of regulation and oversight and everything. And I'm not saying that the DMV is an authority on autonomous driving, but at this point, I don't see a problem with Tesla having to release that kind of data. I would like to see that data. I think that would be a way better indicator to us of any progression with the FSD beta, to see the disengagement rate versus just the anecdotal evidence right now that we get from FSD beta tester. I think it would be a plus. It would be a win.
I agree. What is the opposite argument? Like why hide it? Like like
Well, I mean, if you're a Tesla super fan and you're a Tesla investor, and then if it looks back, because we know it's a one step forward, it's a two-step forward, one step back kind of
right.
process, the FSD beta. So every now and again, there's an update that doesn't do well and actually worsen the whole system. So if it goes down, it could affect the Tesla stock, and it could look bad for Tesla, and it could look bad. I mean, the real argument, I think that has some validity, is that it could look so bad that it set back full self driving in terms of, like, it becomes over regulated and set back the entire advent of the technology. I think that's the only argument that could work, but at the same time, like, you can make that argument about anything, like. So I don't know. I'm for it.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, we are in agreement on this. Tesla announced that their earnings for the Q4 2021 and consequently the full year 2021 is going to be released on January 26th. Why are you talking to us about that, Fred? Big deal. Who cares? I agree for the most part. That's true. But what's special this quarter is that Elon said that he's coming back to the call. Of course, if you haven't been following the earnings call lately, Elon is not on them anymore. He said that he's only going to be on them when it's more important, when there's something to announce. Full year earnings could probably qualify as being more important. Well, on top of it, Elon already announced that on the next earnings call, which again we now know is January 26th, he's going to do a product roadmap update for Tesla. So that's going to be something to watch for sure. Going to be something interesting. And he said that specifically in response to the Cybertruck. So we're going to expect a full update on the Cybertruck and some other Tesla products.
Roadster.
You know what? That's the only one that I think we won't really hear about. Maybe we were gonna hear about it a little bit. We know that MKBHD just did this video about it. Well, it was partly about that. Um,
I didn't see it. What was the gist of that one?
well, I mean, the whole video was about how tech companies sometimes lie to us. That was
Oh,
the theme of the video. So Tesla was the first part, but it was also a part about Apple, about a bunch of other companies. Which for Tesla, it was focusing on the Roadster and how Tesla like lied about the timing of it, lied about. I mean, to be honest, the Tesla part, I thought it was like pushing it a little bit. Like you could have found plenty of other things
right.
from Tesla to lie about. Like the FSD would have been a way better
Easy one.
example, I think. The Roadster was talking about like the 1.9 seconds was removing the rollout, which most automakers these days use that anyway. So it's just standard at this point. So it's not really a lie. I think the timing of it. I think himself in the video is like that's not really a lie to them. Maybe they tried to do it and then they didn't. Um, it wasn't a lie at that time. I'm sure they were aiming to release it in 2020, but then they realized that we should focus on the Model Y, and then we should focus on the Cybertruck, and so on. But yeah, so the Cybertruck, we expect an update on it. There's been a bunch of news coming out in the last few days with the Cybertruck. I know the Reuters was out with, it's been delayed to the first quarter 2023. The report was kind of weak in my opinion. I don't, never heard of the guy that's reported on it. I mean, nothing against him, but I look into his history of reports on Tesla. He never had an exclusive on Tesla before new information, so that was his first one. And in the report, he says it's based on one source. So I'm like, good. Look, if I was to bet on whether Tesla is going to produce a Cybertruck in 2022 or 2023, I'd definitely bet 2023. So you might be right, but it doesn't look like it was on any kind of solid information. Then Trip Shradi, who's been wrong plenty of times on Tesla, came out with an even bigger report saying, "Oh, Tesla's going to unveil the production Cybertruck in March, and it's going to have two versions, and one's going to be 15 to 20% smaller than the prototype," which also I would take with a giant grain of salt because Tesla has talked a lot about the smaller version, which they said at first they were going to do. Then Elon said, no, we're going to put that on the back burner. We're going to make it later on for the European version. So I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon from Tesla. I think they're going to focus on just D1 version, bring that to market for the American market, which is the one. The American market is the one that needs the Cybertruck. Like
Right.
it needs
Although
electric pickup trucks.
the Ford Maverick's been quite popular, though it comes in a hybrid version, but I
Yeah,
don't know if that's
it's
the
also
best selling
super
point.
cheap though.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
difference. But yeah, we expect a lot of update on the Cybertruck. Probably an update on the timing, though. To be honest, I don't know if even Tesla knows exactly the timing on this
They
thing just
certainly
yet.
don't.
Yeah, I mean the focus right now in Texas is obviously Model Y, and once they ramp that up, then the focus is going to shift on Cybertruck. But then, so if right now, let's say that the Reuters report was true and they're now aiming in first quarter 2023, but let's say that that also includes production ramp achieved in Q3 2022 for the Model Y, and then no volume production slips to Q4. But then you can assure you that the Cybertruck will also slip. So I don't know. What else? So we expect with the product roadmap update, the Tesla Semi, that would be a nice update there. Even maybe like a production spec unveiling, that would be
Right.
nice. What else? Did I mention anything else that I would expect? Oh well, an update on Model Y from Gigafactory Texas, Gigafactory Berlin. That would make sense too. We know that there's been a lot of indication lately that Gigafactory Texas is about to start production. I know that Dan Hives, who I would trust more than than Trip Shoddy, has a better track record with those things, did say that he expect Model Y production in Texas to start within the next 2 weeks. And so also when the timeline is closer like that, normally they know something we don't. And I would be surprised because today too we saw that the Tesla updated the Model Y owner's manual in the US, and they had a mention of the structural battery pack. They said that if you have a structural battery pack,
Mm.
the lift points for jacking the car are different. So that might be like the only thing you need to know about the Model Y with structural battery pack in the owner's manual, because everything else is under the hood. It's not something that the owners really would have to temper with. So something to keep in mind. Like we in the next few days, I would expect more reports about Gigafactory Texas and a start of production there. Anything else said from the product roadmap that you would like to see?
We could maybe hear about the Model whatever 2 or the smaller thing from
Yeah.
China. I don't know
So
if they
so
would announce it here though.
yeah. So that's the thing about announcing it there. Like Elon has always been saying, like, oh, the earnings call is not a place for product updates, product announcement, and things like that. But now he specifically said that this earnings call is going to be a product roadmap update. But at the same time, a product what the product roadmap means more about the timing on when things are coming. I think. So timeline on the Cybertruck, timeline on Model Y. So maybe an update on the timeline on the $25,000 Tesla, if that's still the targeted price, which is not a done deal, obviously. Yeah, for Gigafactory Berlin, we would like to know an update on that. But the situation is a lot murkier in Berlin because to start production, they need the environmental report approval, and that still hasn't happened. But there was an update this week where Tesla obtained another temporary approval, this time to produce 2,000 Model Y bodies. So in the application for that was approved, we learned that before Tesla was approved for 250 Model Y bodies at the factory, they did that, they produced those in the report, based on what the Brandenburg government said, is that Tesla communicated to them that they weren't happy with the quality of those 250 bodies, and now they want to do a second run with 2,000 bodies, which is a lot more. But So a lot of people are saying, oh, they're going to use those bodies to produce cars to sell to people and to be ready to have volume production and everything. They can use the higher volume to be closer to volume production when they do get approval to start production. But it is explicitly said in the approval that they cannot use those bodies to make cars that are going to go to customers. So that kind of kills that. But yes, I do think that that will help Tesla reach volume production faster. So that's the thing with Berlin. Like everyone is waiting. Like when is the environmental approval going to finally happen? And yes, it's important for that to happen. I mean, they literally have a deal with the government in Berlin. They had to put aside $100 million in case they never get the approval and they have to destroy demolish the entire factory. So they have 100 million aside just for that. So there's always this I don't think it's ever going to come to that, but there's always this possibility that they build this entire thing for nothing. Again, I don't think that's actually going to happen, but it's something to keep in mind of the mindset around this whole project. But yet, what the silver lining of this entire situation is, even though the environmental approval is not happening, Tesla is still doing a lot of work at the factory to ramp up production a lot faster whenever they can start it. Oops, what's happening here? Get that back up. All right. All right. Speaking of the Tesla Semi earlier, it was this uh, Mr. Jason Colpaw sent us some pictures of the Megacharger near Gigafactory Nevada. So this is the first mega charger out there for the Tesla Semi, and you got some up close pictures of it. And the interesting thing is that you can see that Tesla is using this right here with this a power pack with inverter on a trailer. So it's a mobile power pack system. So Tesla has used those sometimes before, sometimes combined with superchargers, and they deploy them at supercharger station or as backup power for supercharger station. So Tesla is doing that for the Mega Pack, and we don't know exactly why, but my assumption here, is, which I think is a safe one, is to test some mitigation system for demand charges, because we know for charging station in general, demand charges are a big deal. That's why Electrify America deployed Tesla power packs at over 140 of their own station. And Tesla, funny enough, Tesla seems to be a little bit behind the deployment of energy storage at their own station, but they are doing it too. And the idea is to shave some of the peak demand there, because electric utility will charge you a lot more if there's a big discrepancy in your average use of electricity, and then there's a big spike in it. That spike, you're going to get charged per kilowatt of energy a lot more. And some charging network, they say that this is a giant part of their electricity bill and or their costs, that ultimately the customer that charge their electric vehicles there end up paying. So the power pack can shave some of that peak demand, reduce demand charges, and save a lot of money. Now, can you imagine with the mega pack what's happening? Because we know the mega pack is probably over 1 megawatt of power, maybe as much as 1.5, 1.6 megawatt. So most of the day you can have like no truck charging at all, and then one truck's charged there, and then two spike that up to 1.5 megawatt of power. So the demand charges at those mega chargers are going to be massive. And a power pack like that, the power pack system being installed there, that trickle charge during the day, so that your demand is more stable. And then when a truck stop by to charge, you can both draw from the grid and draw from the power pack at the same time, and that will stabilize your electricity needs and reduce your demand charges greatly. And we know, if you remember, I mean, I don't know if that's still true. I actually doubt that it's still true. But back when Tesla unveiled the Tesla Semi in 2017, Elon announced that the mega charger is gonna be a big part of the deal, and that, how much he said, Tesla's going to guarantee a rate of 7 cents per kilowatt hour at mega chargers. So it's impossible for them to do that without a way to avoid almost completely demand charges.
Right.
So I think this is what we're seeing here, Tesla's solution to demand charges. I mean, I think you're gonna have a lot more than that, though. You're gonna have to have like a bigger energy storage system, maybe solar on site. You're gonna have a lot of things to deliver on 7 kilowatt hour.
Also, Tesla may have just missed the mark, and they're going to charge something way higher.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see twice that, if not
Right.
more. All right, we have a few more news items to discuss before jumping into the comment section. So if you guys have questions for us or topics you want us to discuss, please put them in the comment section right now. If you can put question in capital, or the whole question itself beforehand, we that would help us a lot. So please do that, and we're gonna get to them in just a few minutes. Moving on from Tesla, the Kia EV6 deliveries in the US have actually started already. There's a few reports from customers that said that they've taken deliveries over the last few days, and this is apparently way ahead of schedule. Apparently, 3 months ahead of schedule that the deliveries have started. We reported last week or the week before that on Kia releasing the pricing on the cars. Did we didn't include them in that article, but I think it started at what, 45,000. So it's about $5,000 more than the EV5 Ionic 5, which is of course the same platform as the EV6, but with a different form factor from the Hyundai brand instead of the Kia brand. But this is a sweet car right there. I think that was one of them that was delivered this week.
Yep.
Beautiful car.
Yeah, and a week after next week, I believe I'm going to have a first drive of it in California. So,
Nice. Great. All right, we got an update on Rivian's production, and they released their entire 2021 year production and deliveries. We we kind of had a good idea of it already from the first earning reports, which was released in December. But that covered the quarter up to September. But they did release an update until December 15, and they said that they had delivered roughly 600 vehicles, something like that. And they had originally guided that they would deliver 1,200 vehicles in 2021. But during that earnings report, they already warned people that they had some production issues that is going to result in a miss by a few hundred units. So now they confirmed that in 2021, they produced 1,015 vehicles and delivered 920 of those. Again, the miss has gotten some mixed reviews, but to be honest, I think it's still pretty good because we're talking about the September, because they started production in September, so September to December, ramp up to 1,000 units. It's not bad.
If I told you a year ago that Rivian was going to produce 40 times the EVs that GM produced in quarter four, you would have said, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. A year ago, yeah, it would have been hard to see the whole thing happening with the Bolt, because I mean the Bolt was
Right.
always getting some decent deliveries, and now so the Bolt EV UV being crashed to the ground through this recall as has been the issue for GM, and of course they delivered literally a single Hummer EV in December in 2021.
I wonder
So
who
they
got that. Like, was it internal? Do you
no, it
think it?
was actually it was sold to it was
Oh, that's right. There was
an
like somebody
auction
who.
to a charity, and they sold for like over $1 million, I think. But the money went to a charity. I don't think we actually know who bought it because it was an auction.
Hmm.
But yeah, so 1,000 units produced, a little bit under the guidance, but still pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, not bad
Yeah,
for a first.
we're gonna keep a close eye to the ramp up. They didn't break down the models that were part of those 1,000 units, though. So I assume it's mostly the R1T, but we know that they produced a few R1S in December, and I assume that they're putting the Amazon electric delivery van in that too. So
Right.
they're supposed to produce 100,000 of those over the next few years. So that's gonna be a big part. All right, still about Rivian, there was a cool indication here that they might get into the electric bike business. So they had their trademark, their existing Rivian trademark. They expanded it to cover another category that is focused on electric bicycles. So this is an kind of an early indication that they might go into that business. It's not a complete confirmation because we know that companies sometimes trademark things that they don't end up using a trademark with. But it would make a lot of sense for Rivian to get into electric bikes. We know that Porsche has done it. We know that BMW has done it. A bunch of other premium automaker has produced electric bicycles. A lot of them also just buying bikes from other companies, slapping
Yeah.
their brand on it. I don't see Rivian doing that, but you never know.
Yeah. I mean, they'll
And
probably buy components from another.
oh
You know,
yeah, yeah,
they're not going to
that's
build it bespoke like their own vehicles, but.
yeah,
Oh,
but they might do it like just a model just for them. Like you said, it would be cool to have one that like fits perfectly in the back of the
oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
R1T or something like that. Of course, we've seen a picture here that they already have a R1T bike rack that you can put the bikes on top.
Yep.
So maybe it's gonna be just a regular good old electric bike. I don't know.
That'd be
All right,
cool.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on potentially Rivian making an e-bike. Should we jump into the comments, the questions?
Yep. All right. The Jose says Neo expands headquarters in USA, which we reported on. Is the launch
Mm.
imminent of a US Neo? And are Neos great EVs? Well, I've driven one Neo in London a few years ago, and it was pretty solid. What about you? What's your experience?
I'm pretty hyped about Neo, to be honest. I think they made some great cars at really reasonable prices. Some of them.
It does. It does feel like there's going to be a big wave of Chinese vehicles, Chinese EVs coming to the U.S.
Yeah, I mean the opportunity is there. They already have the power for that. They have the volume. They have the brand power is not as strong for sure. Like Tesla has a giant advantage of that, and automakers in the US still have time to solidify the position. But I think there's an opportunity for a brand like Neo and Xpeng and a few others to to expand to North America. As for the launch being imminent, we're seeing the very early sign of it. If you remember way back, Neo actually had a bigger presence in the US, and then they scaled that back to focus on China, which made a lot of sense for them at the time. And now it looks like they're scaling back up in the US. But for them to actually launch in the US and to go through all the regulatory approvals and to allocate some volumes, and I mean, Neo is also clearly going the direct sell and direct service route. So they need to deploy service centers here. They
Right.
need to they they also have their own charging network, and I don't know if the battery swapping thing that they do in China is going to make it to the US. Maybe. I mean, it looks like it's working in China. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, if they branded it different there, because we know that in the US it's been tougher to ramp up. So there's still a lot of things that need to happen, I think, for NEO to launch in North America, but it looks like they're making the first step towards that.
And they've already launched in Norway.
Yeah.
And anywhere else? Where else are they?
I think there's a bunch of other markets in Europe where they are also they're further along. I don't
Hmm.
think they any deliveries yet, but US seems to be a little bit behind all that.
Right.
So not imminent, but yes, I think it's going to happen eventually.
All right. When we were talking about the heat pump,
Mhm.
Carolyn LNU says needs to be solved before there's a loss of life. Yes, that would
I mean,
be.
loss of life would be extremely tragic. I don't think it's going to come to that, but yeah, it's definitely it should be on the top priority for Tesla right now.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We're just gotta scroll a little bit here. Thoughts on article today by Dan Klein of The Street that the Cybertruck might not ever get built. So I took a quick look at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Uh,
don't even know what Dan Klein is, but I think that if he believes that, is mistaken.
so he had a couple arguments. One that it
Hmm.
was a head fake. Uh, it
A
was
what?
just a head fake, kind of just like uh, screwing with the industry, and they have a different vehicle, different roadmap planned, um, and the fact that
What does he mean by like? I haven't read the article. But does he mean like it was a strategy to confuse the industry? Is that?
that's his argument.
Oh
It
boy,
is
that
so
guy
strange that
is
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah,
out there. Like,
right.
like this. This is a vehicle program that was deep in development for years. That the designers and engineer have been working hard on and developed a lot of technology for, and there's a lot of patents for them. And yes, it's out there in terms of design and everything, but there's a lot of good reasons for those design. And I know they are controversial, but there's obviously a large market for it, and a lot of people are excited about it.
Well, a lot of people already put money down for it.
Yeah, so I don't know what this guy's talking about, but it seems like one of those ideas that dare I say clickbait.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably it's so out there for a lot of people that they can't imagine it actually happening, like those being
Yeah,
on the streets. And then in addition to that, add all the delays and you put
yeah.
those two together and people are like, maybe it's not going to happen.
I
It's
mean,
going
the
to happen.
delays. I'm not like I'm not always out there defending Tesla on their delays, but the delay on the Cybertruck is clear. Like the Tesla, like I was the first to report that Tesla's going to build a factory in Austin. Like, and people know like my source for that was extremely good, and it ended up being true. And we were months ahead on everyone on that. And my source at the time was again a source close to the project, extremely close, said that Elon was saying that he wanted to start production of Model Y by the end of 2020 at the time, like, or at least have a general assembly. He wanted to have a general assembly there by the end of 2020, and then start producing the bodies by the end of 2021 there, and ramp up production with that. That was the original plan. Then, of course, it was pushed to everything by the end of 2021, and this was also delayed for a bunch of logistical supply chain reasons. Tesla had to focus on that. The Model Y program there was delayed, and so the Cybertruck had to be delayed too, because the same people that design and deploy those large production line for the Model Y are going to switch their focus and produce the production line for the Cybertruck. Tesla needs those people, needs the capacity, and right now they're all working on the Model Y. So uh, the reason for the delay is clear. It's not it's not for some wild reason where Tesla is trying to is doesn't intend to ever produce it, and is playing some mind games with the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me. We were talking to a former high-level Tesla exec at a conference about 2 years ago, and he was saying that um, this is one of Elon's pet project. So he's like micromanaging the whole
Oh yeah,
operation.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's like, there's no like it's going to get super delayed.
Mm-hmm.
He said the last time Elon
Model
got
X.
this
Yeah,
involved was the Model X.
yeah,
We know that was super delayed.
yeah,
So it's going to be a more interesting vehicle probably for it, but it's also probably going to be a little
yeah.
bit late.
Yeah, I remember that the comparison with the Model X, like, and I mean, and Elon just confirmed it recently, a few months ago. He said the Cybertruck is going to be a technology test bed, a platform. Like the Tesla's going to cram a lot of new technology in it, just like the Model X. So he basically signal everyone that yeah, this program is going to get delayed if any of those technology doesn't pan out as well as they thought.
All right, green gold. Cybertruck will get a redesign. Elon has even hinted about it. He has.
Has it? I'll see
I think
what
he's
you.
the opposite. He said it's going to be almost
Yeah, yeah,
identical.
you're right. Yeah, yeah. Very recently said that it's going to be very similar to the original one. There's a few things that, again, it's a few technology that you might not expect will end up on that truck. That I think that's it. Um, they said things like the wiper, like the huge, giant, weird wiper that we saw in the most recent prototype last month. He said that's going to be the production one. So people are thinking, okay, maybe it's going to be the electromagnetic wiper thing. Maybe
The
it's going to
laser
be
wipers.
the laser. Like that's a little bit more out there, but it's like apparently a very real technology that Tesla is working on, and yeah, they were granted an actual patent for it. So
Yeah. All right. Mark LA says, "Is there a strong case for Rivian taking a stronger market share than originally thought? Rivian will take as many cars as they can possibly make
yeah,
until 2025.
yeah,
So,
at least 2025. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's fair. I think. No, depends on what you were expecting from originally thought. Like, what was the market share? What you thought? Like, the production capacity in normal, I think, is around 200,000 units. Then there's a little bit more at the new factory in Georgia. So they're gonna sell all those for sure.
yeah, at least for the first couple years.
Mhm.
All right. Roll of 20 says ID4 or Ionic 5 for first budget EV. That's a good question. Also, which EV truck will you two get? Also a good question. So let's start with the ID4 or Ionic 5 as a budget EV.
I
I
go
mean, they're
with
not,
Ionic 5 personally. I think.
yeah. So the ID4 does not, so both of these vehicles both have like a 200 horsepower, which is okay, but we're talking about like 6.5 seconds 0 to 60, and that's just not a lot of fun.
Most
It's
people don't care though. I feel
most
like.
people don't care,
I
and
think I
it's
think
budget.
the kicker for those is going to be the charging. The charging of the Ioniq 5 being so much faster.
Yeah, the
Uh,
charging is a lot faster.
I
Some
need to
cool stuff.
compare the cargo space and all that, like the actual numbers on those, but I would assume that they're fairly close, even though like the ID4 might be a little bit bigger on the outside. I think they're pretty close.
Yeah, I think for a lot of things they're pretty close. I think it's going to come down to like taste and appearance. Like
Or
the Volkswagen, I think is I don't want to say it's more feminine, but I feel like it's going to appeal to
it's more traditional SUV, and
traditional.
which women like and generally. It's
Yeah, and
more appealing to them, I think.
the ID, sorry, the Ionic 5 kind of seems more like I don't want to say Camaro-y, but like it's more,
Sporter is more sport like car.
like gamer
Yeah.
kind of vibe, big pixels. So I don't know. Uh, I think they're both good budget cars. Um,
Yeah,
can't
roll
really.
A20 just said like 7 seconds 060 is fine for normies like me. I think he's right. Like, I mean, people don't like the term normies, but I think for most people, they don't care that much about the 060 time. Especially we were coming from people we've been driving an electric car for so long, and especially Tesla, that you get used to that kind of power. But for someone coming from a gasoline powered car, especially if it's not a high level premium car, that's perfectly fine 0 to
Yeah,
60.
It's actually quite nice, especially without gears and everything.
Then
All right.
the truck, you already, I think that, well, I mean, it depends when you don't want a pickup truck set. You want what you want the
No.
R1S.
Right. So I I still have my Cybertruck reservation.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm probably gonna end up with the R1S for two reasons. One, I think it's probably gonna get made first, and or once they get to me, it'll be first. And two, well, a couple reasons more. Um, it's smaller, so it's gonna have a smaller footprint, so it might actually fit in my garage. Um, and like the having the cab in the back in the third row is something that's good for my family. So, you know, if something happens to Rivian and they're gone, I'll definitely go Cybertruck. But I think Rivian just fits my needs more. How
Yeah,
about
I
you?
agree. I've been leaning Cybertruck lately. I still have my Rivian reservation, but there's no the timeline. I don't think I'm gonna get it by the end of this year or maybe early next year. So I think technically I should be able to get a Rivian R1T before a Cybertruck, but it's gonna be kind of close, I think, in Canada. So I don't know. I'm still open to it. Like I could be convinced either way. We're gonna get a better idea, I guess, when Tesla release the production spec of the Cybertruck and production pricing of the Cybertruck, which we know are gonna get updated maybe next week or on the 26th or whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna wait for that. But right now, I have to say I'm leaning a little bit Cybertruck.
So Bradley, who's one of our team members, jumped over to the F-150. He had a
Yeah.
Cybertruck, and I think he was on Rivian train for a while, and he has a pickup now. Would you jump over to Ford F-150 if they said, "Hey, Fred, we'll let you go to the front of the line. We'll get you one next year"?
Good question. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Like if I would certainly go for the F-150 before like Silverado Electric or I mean, we haven't heard much about the Ram. Um, yeah, I mean, it depends. I think the price is going to be quite high, to be honest, in Canada for that. If because I would want a bigger battery pack.
Hmm.
Um, I, I I'm very curious to see. Wait, once we get also the Rivian, like I'll also tend to want the bigger battery pack for the Rivian, and that's also been significantly delayed. So between like I would preferably I would like to take my decision with the information of the price of the bigger battery pack for the Rivian R1T, which is going to come next year. Then Cybertruck, that's why I keep leaning Cybertruck because I think knowing Tesla, they're probably going to launch it with the top version with the bigger battery pack, and I think Tesla is still king range for money. I think Tesla is still king on that front. So I think the top end Cybertruck, unless they go a plaid version of the Cybertruck or something, which I don't want, but I want the bigger battery pack with tri or quad motor if I have to. But I think for the price of that versus the price of the Rivian, which is and the because it's not cheap if you want the big battery pack for the F-150 Lightning. It's not cheap at all. I think it starts at 74,000 US, so that's gonna cost me $100,000 in Canadian dollar. It's gonna be expensive. So I'll wait and see once we have all the information. But right now, I'm taking knowing what I know about Tesla. I think Cybertruck is gonna be the best option.
Yeah, I mean, one of one of the problems with like getting one of these is like, well, we want to get it as soon as possible,
Hmm.
and everybody's timelines keep moving around. Usually getting pushed back. Although Ford said they were going to double their production recently.
Hmm.
Like, so if you're picking between a Ford in 2 years and a Rivian in 1 year, which that sounded like kind of my options when I was picking, then a Rivian in 1 year definitely sounds better than a Ford. But if they were coming at the same time or the
Hmm.
Ford was coming earlier, I don't know, maybe it makes more sense then.
Yeah, but especially like if for you like going to Vermont all the time in the winter, like I feel like that would make a big difference for you just like one winter ahead at having that R1S to go between New York and Vermont. Like
For
that's a
sure.
big improvement, I think. Yeah, it makes sense with the family and everything. For me, it's more like just I just bought a house with a big piece of land and everything. It's going to be useful, but it's not priority. So I don't know. I'm more willing to wait a little bit if I have to.
Yeah. All right. Getting toward the end here. Green gold. Why would Elon say it could fail if it has 1 million pre-orders? Might be a little confusion there. I don't think Elon said it could fail.
I think you said that before there was a million like a million pre-order.
Oh,
You did say it before.
oh, there's a backup or
Actually,
something.
yeah, actually unveiling it, he said that, well, we can just produce like a regular looking truck if no one wants it. Right now, I think Elon is gonna go all in. That's why he's pushing a lot of technology in it and everything. It's because he knows the excitement is there and that people are going to be willing to wait a little and whatnot. So no, I think Tesla is all in Cybertruck right now. I don't know what this Mr. Klein is saying. Like, I think Tesla is going to produce that thing later rather than sooner, maybe, but they're going to do it.
Yeah, I think so too. I wonder if it's going to be like, the Hummers were such a cool thing for such a long time. I don't know how long time, but they were cool for a while, and then Hummers became like really lame somehow. I hope it
Yeah, but
doesn't.
I mean, it became lame. Also, it was a big part of like you were automatically labeled as just a moron that was spending $200 on a tank, a gas tank,
Right.
just burning them for no reason. Like there was a stigma attached to it too that didn't help. That's the big advantage with those electric pickup trucks. Like you can have the big truck experience for whatever reason if you're actually using as a work truck to carry some load and everything, or you just like being higher up in the road and uh, also like being basically a tank. Like there's the security aspect of it. Like if you're on the Civic that crash into a pickup truck, you're gonna be safer in the pickup truck than in the Honda Civic.
Yeah,
Um,
that I mean that upsets me a little bit because it feels like an arms race, and people are just
yeah.
getting bigger and bigger cars, and you can't see bikers
But
or
the
kids or
arm race is already over, set in the
right,
US. Like the pickup
right,
truck have won.
right.
Green just said that Elon said it last month. I would need to see the context of him saying that. Did he say something like that on the Joe Rogan podcast? Maybe something, but I. I don't. I think maybe he said it like, oh, some of the technology might not work. Maybe the manufacturing of the exoskeleton. I think it had to be some kind of context around that. I don't think it was like the commercial success.
Yeah. All right. That is. Oh, sorry.
Uh,
One last question. Will Model 3 ever get a hitch option? Ionic
It did in
5
Europe,
question.
didn't it? I think it
Yeah, I
did
was going to
in
say
Europe.
in Europe everything has to have
Yeah.
hitch. It just those hitches are for
Mm.
very light things like
Yeah.
bike racks and
You
small
can have a
trailers.
trailer, but it has to be like a super small trailer. So no, I mean we don't know any indication that it's going to come to the North American market,
I mean,
unfortunately.
you can get a third party one. I put a third
Yeah.
party one on my Model
Yeah.
Y. It's not easy, but you can have somebody do it.
Hmm.
It works. So that's
All
it.
right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give us a thumbs up. It helped the show more than you know, and it's also free to do. So just do it, please. If you are listening on your podcast app, you can give us a 5-star review. That helps a lot too. It's also free. So that's pretty much it. I hope you have a nice week.